Morning YouTubers, I've got a special one for you today. We're going to be starting at the junction where the River Stolt meets the River Lee, where we turn left and head down the Lee towards London. I'll keep you updated, showing you where we got to and where we stopped as we go along. When we get past that tree on the right, we'll be off of the River Stolt and onto the River Lee. This is a journey that I planned to do about 7 months ago, but with the lockdowns and a few other things that life throws at you, it's put me back a bit. If you look up there to the right, that leads up to the town of Hertford, but we're going to go left. This is all going to be new to me from now on, and I'm really looking forward to the adventure of it all. You get pictures in your mind, like, is it going to be all industrial? Is it going to be nice? So come along with me and we'll find out. I know we've only just turned onto it, but first impressions, looks lovely. Straight away we're coming up to a lock. The locks are wider on the River Lee than the River Stolt. They're double locks on the River Lee. River Stolt you can just get certain wide beams through them. Someone asked me on the previous video why I didn't go through one gate on the River Stolt. There just weren't enough room. You can see here I'm going through one gate. When you're on your own, it makes it a lot easier using one gate. Saves you walking all the way round and then back again. This is Fields Weir Lock. And I've just noticed something that I need badly. There's an L-sand point just on the lock landing as you come out the lock. So I'll be making good use of that. It doesn't look very private, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. I wouldn't want to be walking down that towpath at the wrong time on a hot day, or you could be revisiting your breakfast, if you know what I mean. Right, all the unpleasantries done, off we go again. I've noticed a few little bits of industrial areas at the top up here, but then it turns to scenes like this. Wonderful. Sort of place you want to spend some quality time with those you love. Good name for a riverside pub. When you're up this way, you hear people talking about Dobbs Weir, but that's the first time I've seen it, and it is nice. If you've been watching my previous videos, you should know me by now, and I've always got a plan. I can hear you all now thinking, oh no, not another one of his plans. Plan for this trip is to push on as far as I can go down into London without double mooring, and once I get there, the next day I'll get up at some ungodly hour and try and get all the way through London, which will end up a really long day's cruising. As you know, the days are long in June, so I figured that I can cruise from perhaps 4:30 in the morning to at least 9 o'clock at night, and I should be able to get through London in that time. So today's video will be all about how far I got into London. I've been lucky again with these locks. They've all had one gate open and been in my favour. One of my subscribers, Debbie, worries about me walking about with a rope on the roof. So that's for you, Debbie. I do pay attention to what people say in the comments of the videos. So if you've got anything to say, leave a comment. This boat coming up didn't want to deviate off of its line, so I had to go and scrape against the trees to get out of the way. We're not hanging about. I've been pleasantly surprised of how pretty it all looks round here so far, which I didn't expect. Another lock that's in my favour. This is Carthagena lock. There's a spit of land over here on the right It's got some nice looking permanent moorings. Like me, you must have noticed that the river is a lot wider round here than the River Stolt, which makes it all a bit easier. When I was a kid, I used to get on a train from East London and come up here to go fishing on the left there. Made a nice change from all the polluted canals and rivers in East London at the time. That's where you hire the day boats that you see going up and down this part of the river. I didn't come up here a lot as a kid, because it wasn't often that I had the money for the train fare in them days. We all thought it was like paradise then, which I suppose it was compared to where we lived. There's some lovely properties over here on the left, whose gardens are backing right onto the river. Lovely. That family of swans has picked a nice place to base theirself. What I have noticed here, it looks like the big property developing companies didn't get hold of all the land round by the river, because they usually build flats and apartments where they can get the biggest return for their money, and I think it spoils the riverside. I might be wrong, but it looks like to me that people have bought their own plots of land and built their own individual houses on it, and I think it all looks a lot better for it. But that's just my opinion. Yours might be different. See here, our boaters do interact and say hello. There must be a place up here somewhere that hires out canoes for the day, because I've seen quite a few little families out here enjoying themselves.
I'm beating you. I'm beating you. You've got to go a bit faster. See you later. Have a nice day. Bye. Oh, no.
You see a lot of these old lifeboats moored up on the River Lee. but I've never seen one moving. Have they got engines, or do they just get towed along? This is King's Weir. It's another area that you hear people talking about. I haven't seen any industry for a while. It's all been rather lovely. I thought that this oncoming boat was closer to the bridge than I was, but he stopped. So you don't have to ask me twice, I just went straight through. I'm going to pick up a new crew member soon that's going to keep me company and help me through all the locks and all the problems of London. So I've got to organise somewhere where I can pick them up from a station. But you'll see all that later.
Thanks, mate.
Got another lot coming up. And it looks like I'm going to get gongoozled. I've just gone over a little aqueduct that I didn't even notice. So obviously it's where the lock gets its name from. Aqueduct Lock. Turned out I was lucky that the gongoozlers was there. I was having a job trying to open this gate and the man come along and helped me. He saved me from busting my boiler, as they say, or used to say. The leaky gates at my end was making it hard for the lock to equalise. But once you get the gate started, then it becomes easy. It's just getting that little start. There's my gongoozler mates going by on their bikes, having a nice day. I'm starting to think about pulling over for a nice cup of tea. So I'll have a look what the situation is when I get past this bridge. That's something that you wouldn't have to stop for if you had crew. Because I could either go and make it while someone else steered, or they can make it. Simple things like that when you're on your own, you have to stop. I really enjoyed that stretch of river. It was unexpected, but it was lovely. I'm gasping for that cup of tea. You can see where we started, and where we are now is a town called Cheshunt. I ended up staying there for the night. The weather doesn't look too promising today. When I looked at the forecast, they said light rain for an hour, but we'll see. This boat on the right, Rasmunda, was waiting for me to come through the locks with them. It usually makes it a lot faster if you pair up with another boat and you go through the locks. This is Cheshunt Lock. I'm holding H right up against this side of the lock so the other boat's got room to come in. And we don't knock each other about. I was watching a lady struggling with the heavy lock gates and feeling guilty, and I said to the other bloke, I'm going to get up there and help her. And he said, oh, don't worry about that, she's strong enough. I thought, you're nice. I suppose you do take each other for granted when you've been with someone for years. The other boat has had a really long way to go. They had to go all the way down to Limehouse by today because they was going to go out onto the tidal Thames first thing in the morning. So they weren't hanging about. Like you can see here, the speed that they're coming past me, and there's all moored boats. And I'm not really comfortable going past moored boats at that type of speed. And I would only end up slowing them up on their long journey. The other bloke's up at the lock landing waving to me about something. All seems like too much of a stress up to me. So when I got up at the lock landing, I had a chat with the other fella and said, go along without me, I'll only slow you up and I'll hang about here and have a cup of tea. And by that time the rain might have stopped. Unfortunately the rain didn't stop, it just got heavier all day. I would have liked to have got off here at Waltham Abbey and showed you some of the history around this town, like Saxon history and things like that. But where I'm on my quest to get down to London, or into London, couldn't really do that. The rain got so heavy that I couldn't really film anymore, but I soldiered on all the way down to Ponder's End, where I arranged to pick up my crew member from the station. This is where Ponder's End is on the map. This is my daughter Claire, who's coming to crew with me. She's never been on a moving narrowboat before, so this is going to be interesting. But she's a strong little thing and she learns quick, so we'll be alright. The weather's a lot better, which is good for filming and narrowboating, so there's a plus straight away. I was moored up in an area with industrial estates to the right and reservoirs to the left. Pretty quiet, but a bit industrial looking. There's still some nice old buildings like this one over here on the right, but from now on everything's going to get more urban. Yesterday evening I got on the bike and went down the towpath as far as I could to suss out the mooring situation further up. So I've got a bit of an idea where we might find a mooring. Just hope no one's took them up. This is going to be Claire's first lock coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see how she gets on. There's nothing of her. She's having a job stopping that boat. Rather than fill her head with loads of information, I'll show her how to do the next one. There's two locks in parallel here, next to each other. This is Ponder's End Locks.
Shut the gate down, yeah? As soon as I'm through, yeah.
The paddles are stiff on these old locks, and Claire seems to be doing okay. Got to be careful, don't stand up in front of a bridge or you get your head chopped off. I know that's high, but imagine if it was low, you'd chop your head against the boat. That was a bit graphic, but I think I got the message across. I'm so used to doing locks on my own that I found myself worrying about what Claire was doing and not concentrating on what should be done. But we'll sort it out as we go along. Claire's booked 3 days off of work to come and help me. By that time we should be through London and coming up again, up the Grand Union.
Concentrate, or should we go for a swim?
If you look to the left, you can see the embankments of all the reservoirs that run parallel with the canal. I think they must feed London's drinking water. We should be coming up to another lock soon, and what I will do is I'll get off and show Claire an easier way to stop the boat. When we went up to the lock, this other boat was coming down the river and it was in his favour. So we got him through the lock and now it's our turn. This is Pickett's Lock. The area around here is named after the lock. Call this area Pickett's Lock. That one went a bit smoother, and now Claire's starting to get an idea of what it's all about doing the locks. I was getting fed up with looking at that crooked chimney cover. I think I'm getting a bit OCD in my old age. You see a lot of this up here. Boats getting towed by another boat. I don't know if they're towing them to boat yards or just moving them along to keep the CRT off their back. Claire's been doing a lot of the boat steering, and it's nice just to stand here and have a look around. Not that there's much to see. That bridge coming up in front of us is the North Circular Road. For those people that are familiar with the area, they'll know that we're getting into London now. When we looked under the bridge to the right, we noticed that there was shacks and things where people have been living under there. It's all very sad, really. Seems strange to me that in this day and age people can just be ignored like that. Very sad. We're coming out into another industrial area now. When I came up here on the bike last night, I noticed just past this industrial area was where all the double mooring started. There's a giveaway that we're in London now. Red London bus. That big blue building up there on the right is Enfield Studios. Supposedly the biggest film studios in London. I'll be looking to moor up just past this industrial bit. And that's where we found a nice little mooring for the night. Nice neighbours as well, friendly people. We managed to get down to Tottenham area, and that will give us a chance to get all the way through and out the west of London in one long day tomorrow. So thanks for coming along with us, and we'll see you next time going through London.